African women. African women are amazing, aren't they? Let's start from there. There's so many communities in the African culture that are known to have had women be the primary builders of the home. Yeah, they are known to have women who were the ones who were building their houses. They were the ones setting up foundation, putting up the walls, making sure those houses don't come down when it rains. So welcome for the Wire Real Talk 2022. This is an annual event that is actually designed with you in mind to interact, to network, to connect, and to get the most out of this industry. The theme for today is building capacity to participate in affordable housing development projects.
I hope you're all excited today to listen in and get a lot of knowledge and then use it. And apart from just getting to learn about affordable housing, to ask the questions, I know I have a lot of questions. Sometimes I get conflicted with the word affordable housing itself, and then the spaces also that are available for women and artisans. So yesterday the president was talking about, first of all, 40% in the contracts should go to locals and artisans. And then he was also talking about, and something interesting he said, I didn't see a lot of media people pick on it, was that he wanted to be updated on the statistics. Like he said, particularly for this project, I want to see more women starting with this very project, and I want to be updated. So there's an opportunity, but you can see if there's an opportunity and you just look in and don't move in to fill that gap, there's going to be an issue.
Successfully bidding and tendering for government development projects. So that is what I got. But I'm not a procurement expert, but I will share my experience. And in sharing my experience, I believe I will be able to share some of the things that have to do with successfully bidding. So allow me to share with you the journey for Nairobi County to where we are at today, because that way we'll also be able to see how have we arrived at today. I don't know how many of us know that Nairobi County did not have a master plan prior to 2013. So the initial master plan was actually done in 1948. Then after that, we had a master plan in 1973, and that is what Nairobi County was using until the year 2013. So 2013, JICA supported the county to do a master plan. And one of the key things that came out or was done by that master plan, the plan actually identified and recommended that Nairobi should actually have nodes. And when we talk about a node, we basically mean having a city within a city, such that in a node, it's an area where you can live, you can work, you can actually invest. So from the master plan, the plan recommended that we do the Railway City plan, and we are delighted that yesterday, I think we also the launch of the Railway City. Didn't we see that? So that was actually a recommendation of the master plan. Number two, it also recommended the development of the Eastlands Urban Renewal Master Plan, which we have already done and which we are now anchoring some of the projects that I will mention. And then finally, it also recommended the Embakasi SGR plan. So those three plans were recommended, and I'm happy to say that they have been done, and we can actually see them being implemented today. How do we as women successfully bid or tender for these development projects, isn't it, or any other? Using our projects as an example, we have two main approaches. The first approach is where the developers respond to what we have advertised. They respond to a request for proposal, a request where we ask for partners to come and work with us. And here I would want you to refer, and it's good that you also know what legal framework can be used. Here, the legal framework is the PPP Act 2021, Public-Private Partnership Act 2021, and you can also use the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act 2015. The second, which approach, which can be used, which a lot of people, unfortunately, I have not even seen one person do this. A lot of people don't know that there's this window. The second approach is where the developer submits what we call a privately initiated proposal. That is under the PPP Act. The PPP Act allows you as a developer to identify even an estate where you can look at it, give us a proposal and tell us, I've looked at Bahati Estate, and I think Bahati Estate, I can give you a very good proposal. This is what I suggest I can do for you. I will give you this unit etc. That is allowed by the law. And if you look at the PPP Act, it is clear on how you can go about that. So in terms of responding, now let me dwell on the two, because that way I'll also be mentioning how do we position ourselves as women to ensure that we actually qualify for some of these things. So looking at the approach where the developer responds to our request, the RFP will normally have 3 stages, which all must be met. The first stage is where you have the mandatory requirements. And I believe a number of us maybe have responded to tender documents. The mandatory requirements will ask you to give maybe the company that you're bidding with, bid boards, tax clearance certificates, NHIF, NSSF, etc. All those clearances. So if you do your bid and you do not qualify in terms of those requirements, it means your bid cannot even move to the next stage, isn't it? And I have looked at many bids, and I can tell you, like when we started Pangani, I think we received about, I think in total for the projects we had tendered for, I think we got about 52 bids. But I can tell you, a lot of them, I can say were briefcase. Because if you are bidding, you don't even attach a KRI clearance certificate, for heaven's sake. We can't even proceed, isn't it? Because that already is telling us as government, you are not even compliant when it comes to your taxation, isn't it? So then once you qualify in the mandatory requirement, you now go to the technical. And technical is where now we look at how do you fit into the requirements that we are asking. This will also demonstrate to us, are you able to interpret the requirements that we have put in the request for proposal? Then, of course, we'll also look at, do you have experience in handling similar projects? If you qualify, now you can move to the next stage, which is now the financial. And another financial, of course, you have to demonstrate to us where are you getting the finances. Because remember, we are bringing you on board because we are not able to have our own finances. So we'll want you to demonstrate to us where are you getting your finances. Number 2, we'll also want to see how is your financial standing. And that's where you'll also be asked to submit even your bank statements, your audited accounts, like maybe for the last 3 or even 5 years. We'll want to see what is your development cost, isn't it? Because we know the development cost in the market, so we'll also want to see what is your development cost, what is the price that you're going to offload with to wananchi. Mandatory requirements you have to meet, technical requirements you have to meet, then you also have to meet the financial requirements. Once you qualify, based on our criteria, once you qualify, we now go into a negotiation process. We negotiate, and then now we now do the joint venture agreement, and after that, we now do the implementation. My advice is, number 1, once you have even responded to a request of proposal, a lot of us don't even bother to check the website, or even bother to check even the newspapers. And where do we put the addendums? I hope we all know what an addendum is, isn't it? So once a bid has been floated, sometimes people raise queries, isn't it? All those queries must be responded to within a particular time. So these queries can only be in the website of the organization. If it's for us, for example, you go to our website, look at the addendums that are there, look at the responses to the queries, or even change of date. Sometimes the tenders have even been extended, isn't it? So all those addendums, you need to keep checking the website to see what else, what has there been any changes. Then number 2, I like advising. If you feel you don't meet the qualifications, don't bother, isn't it? Because bidding is not cheap. You are doing designs, you are doing all these things. Ensure you meet the qualifications because it is not cheap. Then do a mock evaluation. The evaluation criteria is always in the bid document. Before you submit a bid document, do a mock evaluation for yourself.
Once you floated, like these documents that are in the portal, in the website for the department, once the people are qualified, the qualifying person is invited for direct negotiations. You don't go through other processes that complicate the issues. You are invited for negotiations, and this is where many of the issues are clarified. So you are able to come up with a document or a signed agreement that you've sat down for a long time and agreed on. I think she mentioned about the time that it's taken to prepare those documents and to agree. At times it takes a very long time for a document to be signed, to be agreed on, and to be signed. What I would like to go through now is what the strategic partners are expected to do on this. As we said, they will develop the funding, they'll raise the funds themselves. They will do the planning and development of that. That is, the drawings and everything will be done by them. The surveys of the land, both cadastral and topographic, will be done by them also. The geotechnical and hydraulic investigations, environmental management, and all that. They'll also be required to ensure that the projects fit well within the what we call the EDGE certification, so that they are green buildings. Of course, they'll be able to market and sell the houses. For marketing, there's a way in which the government will assist because of the, there's what we call the portal, the Boma Yangu portal. So it is like for marketing, they'll be able to put these houses on that portal, at least to help in the marketing. And then the other area is now where I think we might try to find out how we come in. The local content and micro and small and medium enterprises framework. Here we are told that the strategic partner will be expected to have a framework for local content no less than the minimum local legislative requirements. So importantly, the State Department of Housing and Urban Development has ring-fenced 69 items published in the Juakali Production Manual for the local MSE sector.
And the first point that we're making there is that the fact that the government is tasked with the mandate of providing public goods and services, which include a host of things. We've just talked about a few there: education, hospitals, roads, water, and so on. And that's the reason why. So government is really involved in infrastructure, if you think about it. Sewerage, roads, electricity provision, and so on. If you look at all these projects that have been described, government is not building them. You know, you don't have our colleagues here on site building these projects. They're actually being built by private consortiums. So what they have done, they have partnered with government, and we're going to talk a little bit about public PPPs, how it works, because government is not in the business of building houses. Back in the 1970s, 80s, a director of housing here will remember that there was a huge building program that Nairobi City Council then was involved in, the Buruburu estates, the Umoja estates, the Makadara, all the Eastlands estates, were all built by the Nairobi City Council, then financed by the World Bank in those days. In fact, the Nairobi City Council in those days actually used to raise bonds on the stock exchange. And these bonds actually was what put up a lot of these housing projects. So it's very important, therefore, to appreciate that what government is now doing is to encourage you in the private sector to actually participate in this. And one of the provisions that is very key for the country is Article 227 of the Constitution, where we see that the article talks about the basis, it provides the basis for women to access government procurement opportunities and partnerships. So that article is a very important constitutional right for you to participate in these projects. Now let's remember two things, that there are two sets of entities that are in the construction industry. There is government, which is very much involved with infrastructure and now affordable housing, but it is also in the private sector. Private sector has a huge number of developers who are putting up, 95% or 99% of all the buildings that you see all around. So for you as women entrepreneurs, the one thing that you need to remember is that the process of all these developments does not start at the tender stage. You've got to start long before. So you need to have already been part of the consortium. You need to be known by the developers. You need to be known by these contractors. So if you're an architect, for example, are you known by contractors? Do they know you? Are you known by developers? And developers are people who put these groups of people together, the consultants, the contractors, and the developers also put their financing together. So that's a very important point. Now, how do you get to know these people? Like some of you are already just starting out in your professions. Some of you are starting out in business. How do you get to know? Well, you need to network, just like what you're doing here. You're networking, you get to know people. So network as much as you can. If you're a member of a professional body, network in those professional events. If you're an engineer, consultant engineer, or an architect, or an urban planner, they are your association events. Plug into those, participate in those, speak at those events. Also attend other professional events where you can actually pay a fee and you can actually listen to all the presentations. And what you find at these events is that all the people who are in government and in the private sector, you find them there. Like my colleague here who spoke about the architecture side, you find him there. So you get to know these people. You get to understand what's going on in the ministries, what's going on in the public sector, what businesses, what projects are being planned, because the planning starts long before they go to tender. So you need to be there at the table, talking to these different people, getting to be known. So your profiles, your CVs, you need to be out there, you need to be talking at these events, get to be known by a lot of these developers, and participate in what they're doing. And that way you build your capacity, and then the point will come where you now become part of a consortium to actually go and design and build the government projects that we're talking about.